Hey there, and welcome to this simple video about organizing and prioritizing your workload. I hope you find the information valuable as you seek to effectively arrange and order your tasks each day. Now let's first think back to when you were a teenager. Maybe you were like most teenagers and your room was often in utter disarray. Clothes spread out across the floor with no identification of which ones are clean or dirty. School books randomly placed everywhere, some being used as plates or drink coasters. Trash can overflowing with papers, nose tissues, and fast food containers. Maybe the family pet is taking over a beanbag chair as his bed. Good luck finding an important item in a crisis situation within this environment. It's unfortunate that the disarray of a teenage bedroom or college dorm room can also later ease into the office cubicle. A cluttered workspace will often breed a frazzled mental state when an important document must be found quickly. The messiness also reflects poorly on the individual, as others may assume the work product will be as clustered as the cubicle. This brings us to tip 1. Before you can even begin prioritizing, you must clean your workspace. Commit a couple of hours every 3 to 6 months to completely declutter your workspace. Maintain a physical filing system that you intentionally utilize in order to mitigate piles of paper. As more offices move to a paperless imaging system, having good electronic organization is just as important as the physical workspace. Make sure to have clearly labeled electronic directories for different types of files. Archive old email messages by date or topic. Now, once you have cleaned up and organized your workspace, it's then time to prioritize your workload. To prioritize your workflow from scratch, you have to look both from what's called a macro and micro perspective. With macro prioritization, you want to write down every task you would ever complete in your role during a typical month. So starting with the big macro picture, you are literally going to write down all the meetings, audits, file processes, strategic planning items, whatever, that you would potentially do in a typical month. These are your monthly to-dos. This is your macro workflow list that you can go back to throughout the month to see if anything was overlooked. Depending on your role, it may make sense to have a macro workflow view on a weekly basis versus monthly. It just depends on how your job is structured. The key is keeping this list visible and checking it often to prevent anything from falling through the cracks. You will want to save this macro workflow list in an electronic format, such as a Word document, so that you can back it up on a flash drive or company server. Having an electronic version also makes it easier to update the list as your job tasks and responsibilities evolve. Next, you will want to drill down more specifically into micro prioritization. Each night, list all of your tasks for the next day and rank them in importance. For your micro workflow, prioritization of each individual item is important. Before you leave each night, make a list of every individual task that must be completed by the end of the next day. Then prioritize which of these tasks will be completed first thing in the morning and which ones can wait until the afternoon. Also, glance at your macro workflow list to see if any time needs to be dedicated during the day to a long-term project. Finally, check your calendar for the next day so that you are aware of key meetings that need to be prepped for, or that will eat into the time available for task completion. When you arrive the next morning, add any new tasks to the micro workflow list that arose out of after-hours voicemails or emails. As was the case with the macro list, it is preferable to keep your micro workflow list in an electronic format that is backed up. You will refer to this daily task list often throughout the day and continually edit it accordingly. So let's review. First, you want to clean your workspace. Maybe think about this. Does the physical condition of your desk space communicate organization or chaos? Do your email inboxes and electronic drives communicate organization or chaos? Moving on to the next tip, macro prioritization. Write down every task you would ever complete in your role during a typical month. And then finally, micro prioritization. Each night, list all of your tasks for the next day and rank them in importance. With both macro and micro prioritization, what we're getting at is, do you have a method to organize and prioritize both your long-term and short-term workflow? When a task does fall through the cracks, do you reflect on what went wrong and take steps within your workflow tracking to avoid the same failure? Organized employees who have a good method of prioritizing their workflow will thrive in their career. Best wishes on thriving in that office job. Feel free to check out my website, simplejobtips.com, for more simple job tips. Thanks for watching.